I'm just going to talk about the more immediate impact from a currency commodity standpoint as well. Naveen Mathur is joining me for a quick take on that. Naveen, good morning. Thanks for coming in. What's the reaction playing out on the MCX gold contract after yesterday's measures?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ira. I think the markets are looking, it's kind of a sideways movement we have seen. The factors which are related to the gold in India is definitely currency, Ira, and how the dollar is playing out in the international markets. Now, if you see, there is a weakness in the dollar index, and therefore in international markets, gold is buoyant, and it's trading at around 1690, 1694 levels. Now, in Indian markets, because of the implementation of this gold import duty hike from 4 to 6%, it's a right move in the direction towards cutting down the fiscal deficit. We have seen the figure at around 5.4% all-time highs, and with this kind of a move, the currency would definitely take a stance on the appreciation, and that appreciation has already happened in the markets. So I think in the Indian market terms, the gold prices would somehow be sideways to a muted kind of an activity. But on a longer term perspective, Era, I think that the markets would take cues from this hike in the prices, and therefore would dampen the physical demand of gold. The last year also, if you remember, in March and February, in two tranches, the gold import duty was hiked, and we have seen some kind of a pressure on the physical demand, which was lower 1/3 towards what we have seen in 2011. So I think overall, in a long-term perspective, definitely it will come down towards the physical buying, which will be lesser. But at the same time, the incentive for the overall economy is much better to increase and to cut down on the current account deficits.
Naveen, just help us if you have any sense and any data points or even just a sense. So last time when we increased it to 4%, how were the price movements on the domestic market? How quickly did we see adjustment? Was it a one-time, couple of months of adjustment and then going back towards, sort of an average level of demand and imports?
You rightly pointed out. See, last year when we hiked the import duty from 2% in two tranches towards 4%, we saw the prices moving up, and that prices moved up because of the consensus on the parity of the gold prices. Now, the landed cost, if the import duty is high, the landed cost goes up, and to adjust to that parity of the differential, the prices tend to move up, and that's what happened last year too. And in this year also, after the announcement some weeks back, or say around 10 days back, the prices moved up. Now, beyond that, if you see, it is not just the question of the import duty in India, although we being the largest importer or consumers of gold, but then it is not just the question of the import duty in India, Era. It happened globally, what the market scenario is, what the macro fundamentals were playing across for gold, and therefore the markets tend to move up and down. Now, the depreciation of Indian rupee also last year, Era, if you remember, would take the gold prices on the upside, although from $19-20 levels in 2011, we have seen the prices in international markets coming down below $1,600 levels also. But Indian markets didn't move the way the international markets moved because of the depreciation in Indian rupee. Now, beyond import duty impact, there were certain macroeconomic fundamentals which played a critical role, and currency was one of the major factors. I think the reaction would be the same, and we have seen the same kind of reaction. The markets moved up immediately after the announcement last week, but then the markets are muted today. Overall, I think, Ira, as we have seen status quo not taking care of what the currency or what the macroeconomic fundamentals are, with this kind of a news, it will impact long-term physical demand on gold, and therefore the markets would be on the downside for the gold prices in a long term. At the same time, with this kind of an action by the government, we also see a positivity coming out on the Indian rupee versus the dollar, and therefore the appreciation on Indian rupee also would tend to take the prices in Indian markets for gold on the downside.
So the rupee, Naveen, since you track the currency as well, do you think we'd be able to hold near 53.50 kind of levels now?
I think with the positive sentiments building across, and with the kind of a weakness in the safer currencies like the Japanese yen, we have seen the weakness there because of the impetus or the economic stimulus which they are talking about and which they have released today. The Bank of Japan actually has given a pretty strong impetus by giving the monetary fiscal stimulus. So I think the weakness in the safe haven currencies, let it be Japanese yen, or the weakness in the dollar index, would definitely give a relative note on the appreciation of the Indian rupee, plus these kind of reforms and actual implementation of these kind of reforms would definitely take the money into the Indian markets. And with that particular reason, we expect that the prices of the dollar pair versus the rupee would stabilize at around 53 to 53 and a half era.
All right. Thanks so much for that, Naveen. Appreciate your perspective as always. Currencies, commodities, how they're reacting to that gold announcement. In fact, Naveen mentioned Bank of Japan. That's exactly what we're going to discuss on the other side of the break. Back in a minute.
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app. Fully optimized for retina display. Full screen view. Faster response time. And Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.